Discuss is Ryan Payne, who's the president of Payne Capital Management, and Dan Geltrude, who's the managing partner at Geltrude and Company. Great to have you both here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ryan, let's start things off with you. Is the U.S. support of Hong Kong protesters a risk to U.S.-China trade progress?
I kind of like it. I think it's adding extra pressure on Beijing, and we know the economy is slowing in China, so I think it's kind of a nice indirect way to maybe push them towards a deal a little bit sooner than we would see, and it's not as direct, so China saves a little face on it. So I kind of like ratcheting up the pressure on China here.
And Dan, do you take it as a maneuver, though, in the trade talks? Because obviously the timing of it would suggest that contextually there might be some relationship, but is it really a direct tactic?
I don't know exactly what President Trump is thinking, and I don't know if anybody really does. So I would really think that everything in the China trade situation is deliberate. I think this is a big chess game right now, and I'm not sure we see why all the moves are being made the way they are, because, you know, they're in anticipation of something 3 or 4 steps down the line.
Mm-hmm. And so for right now, we've heard that China might retaliate. How might we see China retaliate, especially just days after phase 1 of a U.S.-China deal?
I'm not so sure they will. Again, this has to get passed too, right? We've seen no bill get passed. That's a long way down the line. I think this is just posturing right now. So I don't think you'll see much come of it. It's going to be the tweet of the day, and then we'll forget about it.
That may be true. I think there has already been a little bit of retaliation in a subtle way, because now China has said about the agricultural purchases that, well, wait a minute, we're not necessarily going to start that until we can talk about getting rid of those December tariffs that are supposed to go into effect.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of moves on the board right now.
Yeah, I think what's very clear is that everybody is looking for a clear winner, right, on one side of this or the other. Is there not a way where both of these countries can come out of this benefiting the people of each of these countries, governments aside? We know governments are a small group of people, and mostly it's those who are in the countries that themselves suffer.
Yeah, and I think more China, more so than U.S. right now. We're less dependent on China, which is an important point to make. But I think the big thing is both countries need a safe face at this point. So I think just based on that alone, you're going to have to see some kind of deal happen. Politically, Trump needs it, and then on the economic side, China needs it. So I think we're at a point now where they both need some compromise, and that's probably not a bad way to go out.
Yeah, I think Ryan is right about that. I think China's economy is in a position where they need the deal, and Trump politically needs a deal. I don't think that it was a coincidence, by the way, that the president came out and said, well, we're going to do this in phases, even though I said we weren't going to do it in phases, to get some positive news out there because of everything that's happening related to the impeachment proceedings. So the president really needs to get ahead of this impeachment situation in the court of public opinion. And one of the ways he can do that is by announcing that we're making significant progress with China. I'm not so sure we are, but he puts that out there.
And so right now, the impeachment is well being brought up on the political scene within last night's Democratic debates as well. The president tweeting thereafter, our record economy would crash, just like in 1929, if any of those clowns became president. Is it too early to tell how the markets would respond if any of the candidates on stage last night did step into the Oval Office?
Well, first off, I know it disappoints people, but if you look at it long term, there's no real correlation between politics and what the market does. Short term, you may get a reaction, right? Trump's certainty at this point. We know what Trump is like. He's been in office. So if someone else got in office, potentially you could get a sell-off. But hey, Trump got in and the market rallied hard. So I think the bottom line is the economy is really, really strong, and that's probably going to be the bigger driver of the market than who's in the actual Oval Office.
All right, let's talk about Brexit. The big October 31st deadline looming, but still no closer to any kind of certainty around what that exit may or may not even look like. Dan, I'll start with you on this first. Markets seem to really be more concerned about what's happening with trade, but will Brexit and could Brexit come back into the picture at some point?
Yeah, I think it can. I mean, listen, Brexit is a really big deal, not just related to Great Britain, because let's say that they're able to get Brexit pulled off in time or within their time frame, and it actually benefits Great Britain. Now what happens with some of these other countries in the European Union? who may be teetering on, hey, do we really want to stay involved with the European Union? And they sit back and they wait and see if Brexit is going to be setting off a series of dominoes which could have a significant impact on Europe and then ultimately coming back to our markets.
Markets have already hit all-time highs, even with uncertainty looming with Brexit. How factored in, how priced in is this already?
Oh my God, so factored in, it's crazy. I mean, if you look at valuations on UK stocks specifically, I mean, it's like jumping out of the basement here. I mean, forward earnings right now are like 13 times versus where the US is right now. I think you have like a buy of a lifetime here on European stocks. The negativity has been so great that I just, as an investor and for my clients right now, like, you just have to buy.
Lastly, an indicator here for retail, although we had seen a lot of strength on the consumer side, I certainly have been shopping a lot more, but the sales actually fell for the first time in 7 months in September. Given that the retail sector consumer spending had been sort of the strongest part of our economy, how worrying is this latest number today, Dan?
I'm not too concerned about it. I really think that going into the holiday season, we're going to see retail really kick up. I think all the other indicators are showing us that is going to be the case. We have consumer confidence at all-time highs. The economy, really sound foundations. I think the retail has a bright spot ahead.
And just briefly, go ahead.
No, totally agree. I mean, it's just like, don't ignore the noise here. This is one small piece of data which could be revised in a month or two. To Dan's point, the American economy is rocking. You've got to embrace it. Stop worrying about the media and the news.
The two big names that we're tracking, of course, here on Cheddar, IBM and Netflix, both set to report third quarter earnings after the markets close today. Particularly, what are you watching out for this earnings season? Are you optimistic about these two names in tech or broader the tech sector?
I think broader, I think the fact that banks came off, they came in hot, JP Morgan came in hot, consumer lending's up again, talking about the consumer. I think there are more bellwethers of where things are going than IBM, which, let's face it, has been a little irrelevant. Netflix at this point, I don't know. That multiple is insane. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, with Netflix, I think the bigger story is what's happening outside of Netflix in the streaming industry, right? So now we have AMC joining the party, Disney joining the party, right? So now with Disney, with their huge catalog of movies getting ready to launch into Netflix's backyard, I agree with you. I wouldn't touch Netflix at this point.
Ooh, okay. I mean, because we're not even seeing these launch yet, right? So, so this is not even a buying opportunity for you then, even in the near term. Is Netflix even going to be able to come back around, do you think?
I think Netflix is going to have some significant challenges, particularly because of Disney. That's how I see it. I think Disney is a buy.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that AMC subscription, though. I'm not sure I'm going to get that one, but that's just me, Dan.
Cool to have both of you on for this little roundtable. We got Ryan Payne is president at Payne Capital Management, and Dan Geltrude, who is the managing partner over at the Geltrude and Company. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, all eyes on those subscription numbers from Netflix. More on that next.